Yeah, welcome back, folks. This is House Corrections and Institutions. It's Thursday, January 29th. We're continuing our work on the capital budget, and we are in section 13 that deals with public safety. That is, people think of it as our state police division, basically, our state police department, but it includes a lot of other divisions. We're going to get an update on some current projects as well. There's a resetting of one of the projects we started a few years ago, which was the urban search and rescue for that. So I'm going to turn it over to the Commissioner of Public Safety, Commissioner Morrison.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Jennifer Morrison. I'm the Commissioner of Public Safety. I am joined by several members of our team. Public safety is the home to 8 divisions, and the state police is the largest, of course, but we are also home to the Division of Fire Safety. And within the Division of Fire Safety is the Urban Search and Rescue team and the hazmat team, which is integral to what we're going to be talking about today. And Deputy Commissioner Batesy is here. We're joined by our friend Joe Asha from BGS, who's going to talk as soon as I'm done doing a little intro. Captain Manley from the State Police, our Financial Director, Rick Hallenbeck, and Mike DeRocher, who is the Director of the Division of Fire Safety. I want to start at the top, which is what you've referred to as the Urban Search and Rescue Building. It's actually what we've been calling a Special Teams Building, and this goes back to Commissioner Sherling. He first proposed this in, I believe, 2021 or 2022. Recognizing the need that we have multiple assets that are very, very expensive, and we have no appropriate location for them. The 2 divisions within fire safety that have these assets are the hazmat team, which, as you can imagine, there's a lot of equipment, gear, trailers, trucks, etc. And the urban search and rescue team, which is everything from swift water rescue, as you've seen during the flooding, boats, engines, all sorts of gear, but we also do shoring and rope rescue, and a lot of, Mike, if you want details, Mike can give them to you. But there's a lot of specialized equipment in those 2 units. So put that in the parking lot that they are currently housed in what has been loaned to us. It's an old out of use AOT hangar up at the 40th and Allen. The State Police Williston Barracks were rebuilt and moved across the road basically about 2 years ago. During the build, they ran into more ledge than they anticipated, and they had to cut out the storage, the cold storage for all of the boats and the recreational boating program. And some of that other storage stuff includes snowmobiles and specialty vehicles, ATV type stuff that the state police need in the course of their work. So that stuff is still remaining at the old Williston Barracks. Okay. So we long ago identified a need to bring all those places together and get out of a lease in Williston for the regional fire office. So the Division of Fire Safety has 4 regional offices. One of them is in Williston. And so that regional office has its own lease. We would like to take all of these components and put them together under one roof for a variety of reasons and economies of scale. And we have been trying to move in that direction. And you're right, Madam Chair, it's gone in a few directions. I'm going to let Joe talk about where we are currently. We're very comfortable with where BGS and the Agency of Administration want to go with this. We're very anxious for this to actually move ahead. As I said, we have millions of dollars of equipment that are sitting up at 40th and Allen without sprinkler coverage. And we have people whose workstations are in a completely dilapidated building that is not fit for people to be working out of. So that's a high priority for us. The other 2 things you'll see in the capital bill, as Joe will explain, we bought a piece of land in Clarendon many years ago, more than 10, I think. And the Rutland Field Station of the Vermont State Police is due to be replaced and moved to Clarendon. So that is the first priority for the next field station redo. And then next in line behind that is Shaftesbury, and that's earlier in the planet. So with that overview, unless you have questions for me, I'll let Joe give you a little more of the detail.
I do have questions on the Shaftesbury one. Some of us have been through this before. We are in lease space right now, I believe, in the Shaftesbury Barracks. And has there been any preliminary work done with your department in terms of another location possible, or any work done with the community? Because when we looked at this a number of years ago, there was a big pushback from the community of losing that location in Shaftesbury for state police headquarters.
So I'm going to let Joe speak to the specifics of Shaftesbury. I can tell you that on the rebuilds of barracks that I've been involved in, Captain Manley's been involved along with the local station commander, but they work closely with BGS in the beginning to do the assessment, the scoping, and looking at available parcels of land. So that's been my experience in terms of like public engagement of how people feel about where the field station is. I've not been involved in anything related to that, but perhaps Joe or Captain Manley know a little more. So I'll get out of the way and unless.
Right.
The issue was they didn't want to see it leave.
They didn't want to see it leave because it's a small community. They really felt they depended on that headquarter for public safety. It was pretty emotional. Was it 15 years ago? It was quite a while ago, and it was put aside at that time because there was so much public pushback on it. And I'm just wondering, is that happening again, or is it people not aware of it starting?
I don't know the answers to that. My colleagues
I
might.
can speak to that.
Could you just identify yourself for the record?
Sure, so I'm Captain Mike Manley, with the Vermont State Police. So, the main point of contention, I believe, with that was there was talk of us consolidating Shaftesbury to Rutland, like we did with Rockingham and Brattleboro. But as far as the view today is that we want to keep the station down in Bennington County,
But maybe not at that site, but keep it Bennington.
in that general area, which I think the community is in support of. The goal was if we took it up to Rutland County, which we're not planning to do at this point.
This is about the special teams facility. It's not a question about what you're gonna do, but it's a big one and it's kind of moved the moving parts, whatever. And I know this would be a big lift for everybody, but is it possible for us or a group of us with BGS and public safety to go visit this place and see what exactly the plan is in the future to?
The building that we call the Cache is up at it's at the AOT facility in 40th and Allen.
Where they want to go, know where they want to go.
Oh, they want to go. with
I don't know if we know where we want to go yet.
It was-
I think there is a thought that the building that we call the Cache could be rehabilitated extensively.
That's the old.
Well,
That's up at, no, that's up at 40th and Allen.
Oh.
It's right in the same parking lot as one of the AOT buildings, the District 5 AOT office. I think that's a thought. Joe will have more on that. I do think rehabbing or retrofitting the old Williston State Police Barracks is also on the table. And those appear from the get-go to be a less expensive alternative than building new or even leasing, build to suit your needs type thing. So this is the end of my wheelhouse for this side of the discussion. That's why Joe is here. So I'm going to let you sit here, Joe.
Hang on. I think James said something.
Well, yeah, because I am kind of done, but Williston's what I do mean is because this has been an issue. I've only been on this committee here, but I know that it is moving. And just your answer right there is we're not really sure. And it seems like it's something, especially by, like you even noted, that we have millions of dollars of equipment where it really shouldn't be. So it seems like it's probably a situation we want to get rectified quickly and maybe people can wrap their heads around it easier. Maybe not. Who knows? Maybe Joe will give us a presentation. We're like, let's go. But it seems like
This has been a top priority for the Department of Public Safety for every year that I've been the commissioner. And it has stalled for various reasons.
Yes.
And we are anxious to see this advance. That is our top priority ahead of, although they run in parallel paths, ahead of the Clarendon Field Station, because this is our most urgent need to protect, to build towards the future and protect what we have.
We'll learn more, but that's my point, is it's a big thing and somehow we're gonna have to figure this out sooner than later, and it's been a long time.
Yes, it has.
Thank you.
Thank you. So come on up, Joe.
That's okay, Mary. I understand. For the record, Joe Adrian, Director for Design and Construction with Buildings and General Services. Get my,
And why don't we
Yeah.
start with Shaftesbury, with your first item is really Shaftesbury in your handout, so let's just start.
okay. It need be added in reverse order, but that's what you wish. You're the chair.
That's the way it is in my document.
Yes. So, okay, so first up is Shasta. And what we have, as just mentioned, is the lease facility. So the photo on the bottom right is a picture of that facility, which housed public safety and did well for a number of years. Again, there's the growth, it's a continued lease. And to get into another facility similar to what we had started with way back when we started with Derby years ago. And it's somewhat of a cookie cutter model that is H-shaped, that could be expanded if need be in the future years. The only one that doesn't fall under that cookie cutter model is Berlin, the Barrington Cabinet Berlin. However, for both Clarendon and Shaftesbury, we would be looking back to that same design because it seems to work well for us. We get $150,000 in bond coming in FY 27. At that point in time is when we'll start the process of going out, potentially doing a land search, but really it's starting with a program of and confirming that program. What does that mean? As I said, we have a cookie cutter, but what exactly does a Shaftesbury Barracks need that may be a little bit different than any of the others? Once we understand that, we have the size of the building, and then we do that land search, what is needed. Another critical part when we do search for land, though, is the tower and the connection, and whether, I don't recall if that one's in the microwave or not.
I'm not sure.
Is this spur? So part of the problems is that we have when we put the tower in is to be able to see two other towers. So there is a loop that goes around the whole state that public safety has for their radio system. And so that is one of the things that we'd be looking for. There are some anomalies in that. I believe in Berlin, they're running off of fiber instead of a tower. And I don't think you're using the tower in Westminster, although we do have a tower in Westminster, but I think that's also running off of fiber. Okay. But it's for their microwave system. So that's starting up, once the bill passes, I'll be assigning a project manager to get going on that and starting that process.
So the 150 is to work with state police, work with you folks, design, possibly get into design and figure out.
We would want an architect on board to confirm that programming. And also when we look at land to evaluate that to see, what's the cost of construction on that site versus another site? If it has ledge, if it has no municipal water and sewer, there's lots of that.
When does the lease on this current building expire?
That I can't answer, but it's been there ever since I've been here and we just keep renewing.
Yeah. I believe it's a long term.
Long term? Is there any possibility of purchasing and building on that property?
Perhaps, but what I don't know is the
Perhaps.
the problem is right off, I don't know the true size of the property. And then what do you do on a temporary basis
Right.
for public safety? It can be done. You can bring trailers in, set them off someplace else and everything with the tower, even if you move it 5-10 feet, it may be out of the alignment if it is in that the ring, the microwave. So that's one of those things that could be considered and looked at. I don't know if the owner would be looking to sell.
Put that out there as a thought.
Yeah, it's not an ideal site if we were to choose because there's like a rock quarry behind. And I know the water is extremely bad there. There's some other issues. And I don't know if there's a space to do, because it's a pretty small site.
Depends on your program needs
Right.
and depends on the design of the building. Troy?
Is this a site where dust was an issue too from that quarry?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Slate?
It's like a half acre or something
Sure.
at the
This
most,
is right
right?
around.
I
us.
don't know of that grass area out there, but it is a raised knoll, so, trying to flatten that, I don't know if it's possible. With a quarry right next door, it could be sitting on a ledge.
Chances are,
Ledge runs funny in Vermont, so you never know.
you know, yeah.
Could be a burial ground.
We don't like that one.
Okay, anything else on this? Let's go to Robert.
Next up is Clarendon Field Station Project. That one has been funded in the past, FY 26, both for bond money and cash. And we're now looking for additional funds on this. We do have an architect working right now. Soon we'll have the contract executed, so we are starting on that process. As the commissioner stated, we purchased this shortly after we started design or construction. I think it was design at Westminster, thinking that was the next one to go. However, Williston site, the old building, we just couldn't make it a few more years. So we pivoted at that point in time to go to that new Williston site and constructed that one. So now we're back at the Clarendon Field Station. With the ownership of the property, on the bottom photo, you can see the outline of that property, and it's at the intersection of 103 and State 103 and Route 7. L-shaped property. So from the concept designs that I've seen so far, it can work out pretty good because we'll be coming in off of actually the secondary road, 76, coming in off of there to access the site. And so it's really going to be that front part that you're going to be driving into would be the public entrance. The state police will be driving by some of what we have at Westminster. That would probably be a little bit different, and that way anything out back is better protected.
So where are they gonna access? Is it from Route 103 or Route 7?
Or 79? 78, sorry, right off of here.
103 and then
That's
up.
what we'll have. So we can't come off of 7 because of the ramp here from 103 is too tight, so we'd be coming off of here and coming into the lot. It's
Across
yes.
the road from the airport, right?
The airport, as you're headed down, is probably what, less than about a quarter mile as a crow flies, probably end of the runway. Bit more. When we started this project way back when, we did look at whether or not we can put a tower in there, and we can. So FAA at that point in time had given us a preliminary approval and said, yes, it could work.
You got any wetlands or anything in there?
No, but the land is not great. It's good clay and whatnot. So when we're looking at a septic system at one point in time, we're gonna have 2 or 3 fields. When we first looked at it and purchased the land, there is a sewer line going by to the city of Rutland. At that point, but in a few years past, they had reached out to us to see whether or not we give up our rights because they could use it for development. And we did. We've been in contact with them. There's still plenty of allocation, so we'll be able to connect to city sewer. We will be drilling a well. At the time, you see the sort of the hedges that are running through the sort of the center of the property. There was an old drive, and Green Mountain Power had power line running through there. With our delay and everything else, Green Mountain Power is going ahead and basically going to be moving that line around the edge of the property along Route 7, 103. So it actually works out well, and they said that they'd be kind enough to drop a transformer in wherever we need it along that line. So that works out also in our benefit. And then there's not that division, or we don't have to pay to relocate the line.
Just curious, what's the little carve out, the little tiny?
I don't know. And, you know, it may be a well, I looked at it years ago because I had a question, but that may be what it was. There's something odd.
One of those white buildings.
Those are storage trailers. Or, sorry, not trailers, storage units.
So for the committee, look at the estimated costs. We're looking at 19 million. The state police barracks in Williston bumped up 24 million. They came in, we knocked it down.
We had to come back for additional.
Yeah.
For the E board, but I think I gave back over 2 million.
It ended up
Or
to
20 plus.
22 something.
I don't know the exact dollar.
So that's coming up, folks.
Its construction costs are not going down.
No.
And the way that we have really reined in the cost for this, and this is what Joe relayed to the cookie cutter. We have a base design for our state police headquarters. We developed that a long time ago. So you've got the base design. You can expand that or you can make it smaller. So they're not starting from scratch in terms of what the building layout would be. Kevin?
Does your crystal ball say that there will be competitive bidders for that $19 million project?
I never know that. My crystal ball is really cracked. However, along those lines, we have been seeing more contractors bid our work. We're getting 2 as opposed to 1 or none. So I think it is headed in that direction.
Good.
So I think by the time that we are ready to start construction, there will be 2 or 3 bidders, maybe more.
When do you think you would be starting construction? FY 28, FY 29? Can't do it 20, well, maybe 20.
No.
20.
That I'm not 100% sure. It also, we gotta go through permitting
And the money.
and the money.
They ain't got the money right now.
No, we'd be looking for a request next biennium.
Yeah, because you're only getting schematic design. You got
Right.
quite a ways to go to construction
And I have
documents.
no idea what the next biennium will be, the ask will be.
So it could end up being more than 19 million, depending. on-
It could be, depends on with the tariffs and everything else that are happening.
What does this replace, or does it add on to where we need?
Rutland right now, they have us in the top photo here, you'll see where it's labeled the transportation department, but really that is the public safety facility. The biggest issue that they have, other than the building seen its day, is the fact that the 100-year flood elevation comes close to that building. There have been several floods that they can't get out onto Route 7.
Wow.
And so looking at everything that you renovate in place, we go search for new, and we decided way back in 13,
Look for that.
12 to look for better land. So this land is high and dry.
So what would you do with the other one?
That's a good question.
Keep it for now and
Yes, the rest of that site on the right-hand side is in the north side at the top of the photo would be transportation. The little house, black one here in the left upper corner is our DMV office.
oh, gotcha.
So it's a complex. Whether or not we can, repurpose that building, we have not looked into that yet.
The DMV, is that for the public to come in?
Yes, it is.
Where in Rutland are they located? Where off of
It's off of Route 7,
What part of Rutland, the north part?
north part of Rutland, yes.
Beyond Route 4?
Yes.
So next year, we'll have a better idea, whoever's sitting here, will have a better idea in terms of design documents will then indicate what the projected costs will be. Then that's where the committee weighs in terms of how we move forward. It's when we were doing the Williston replacement. You were well along in design. You hadn't gotten quite to construction documents, I don't think. And that was back quite a few years ago, 5 years.
Yes.
It was over 24 million. And when that ticket came before the committee said no way. And we asked folks to go back to the drawing board and reconfigure some of that building. I think there was a big conference room or a big,
The conference room was larger because of the area that serves. So, but we did shrink that a little bit. We shaved here and there, and then we also carved off the Marine Division of the edge. Which
So then-
is the next,
right, so then they came back before us with a lower amount.
yes.
That redesigned, and we approved that as a committee. And there was some cost overruns because of COVID. And then we ended up basically back where we had originally started with a smaller building, but that price tag was around 23, 24.
So what, like, where would the buildings be in this, you know, in the yellow area, like would some of that?
Right here.
Oh.
So they'd have your public parking and everything else access out here.
Yep.
A drive going by could go out back there's a garage where public safety and BGS are joined in that, and then they have their additional parking and everything.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
So to throw another thing on top of this, if this gets approved, like next year, the year after, to really start work on this, the Arts and State Buildings Program can then kick in and know this is a major project that's happening. And this might be one of the buildings that they would propose, some art and state buildings for. And then part of that could be maybe incorporate some of the art into the actual building itself. It could be railings, it could be entryways, walkway, it could be a variety of things. So that's where the Art and State Buildings Program would kick in once this proposed project was given approval to go forward. Just so you folks can connect the dots.
Yeah.
It might be one, it might not be one, but it would be, the building would be an eligible building.
Evaluation and picks.
I probably shouldn't do this, but for my own head, we're talking 20+ million. We've got a functional system right now. Who determines that this is higher priority than the women's?
We all balance it.
I understand, but who's literally saying the timing on this? I mean, I hear potential flooding. Do we need more room? This isn't the time, but I
Well,
would
it
be
is the time, because you got the folks sitting.
trying to
around. These
understand
are the
how we
youth.
decide that we're, in the next 4 or 5 years, we're gonna spend $25 million on this as opposed to turning down the path for the prisons. Who's
That's
making those?
above my pay grade.
Well,
I mean, that's when you're building the capital bill, and you do take those things into account. So my office, my commissioner, the governor's office, so all those needs come in every 2 years, and everybody, their wants and their priorities, and it gets sifted out.
And that might be a good question too for Department of Public Safety. What determines on your end to make that request to the 5th floor that this is the next place that we need to build new or renovate? I mean, it might be worth to hear from the actual department that's requesting this.
Sure. So each year we're asked to prioritize our capital requests.
And you're asked of that from who?
From the governor's office, well, from BGS, but on behalf of the Agency of Administration who, sits things up to the governor's office. And the order of replacement of the field stations is based on the condition they're in. So the worst ones have been replaced, and the one that is most urgently in need of replacement, and I'll let Captain Manley give you a word picture of what the field station is like. This one is the next on the list in terms of the most decrepit and the one that most needs to be overhauled and rebuilt. We internally have those stations as sort of an ongoing project with the cookie cutter thing, and we evaluate which ones are in the worst need. So that's why Shaftesbury is behind Rutland, is it's not as far gone as the Rutland building is. We Dan and I, along with our directors, we have consistently over the last 4 years prioritized the special teams building ahead of the state police barracks. Because that is the most we have. And then these field stations are prioritized internally by us. And then we elevate that through the agency of administration to the governor's office. And where that sugars out in the big list across the entire state enterprise, I don't know how that magic happens. But if you want,
It happens on the 5th floor.
I'm sure it does. And if you want to know more about why the Rutland Field Station needs to be replaced, this is your man.
That's fine. That's the answer. I assumed it, but I didn't want to ask.
It all comes from the governor. It all comes from the governor. When the governor presents his budget, that's the governor's priorities. And so our budget adjustment, those are the governor's priorities. Doesn't mean it's a legislative priority. And sometimes the governor's priority doesn't meet some of those department priorities that they have requested either. And then those folks come in and testify to us, and then we balance. James?
And not to get too sidetracked on this, because it's a good question we ask ourselves every day. And one of our good friends, a colleague, and I have this conversation all the time is, it's easy to say, well, the governor's decision, right? But we also have a hand, right? So it's really more than just, it's the legislative, it's the administration, it's people inside of each department and agency. So it's not really as cookie cutter, and we all like to have cookie cutter, like who makes the answers. One of our colleagues, and I'll tell you who it is later, we talk about this all the time, and we're always, no matter how much higher in this process you get, you're like, there's got to be, the next room I walk into is going to be the geniuses who make all the decisions. But what I want, like the reason I'm saying this in front of everybody, instead of just having a private conversation, there is no next room. We don't have massive egos. We don't always remember. We are the people who are making this decision as a collective. And so we're all part of, to answer your question, is like, who makes these decisions? We all do.
Okay, so then I'll stop after this. So,
I complicated it by trying to make it easy.
yeah,
Okay.
I understand. So the 5th floor has got a 10-year plan.
Perhaps.
Is that a good assumption?
Perhaps, I don't think so.
There is a 10-year plan.
There's a 10-year plan that
In your
went,
world.
yes, but it's in the capital bill. If we are asked to put, when the request goes out, we are asked to put a 10-year plan together.
That's for BGS home buildings.
That's for everybody.
For the whole capital bill?
Yes, yes. That's on the paperwork that goes out as a 10-year plan. Now, there's plenty out there that don't need
Yeah, like
a 10-year
A&R,
plan.
like A&R with your water and sewer. You're not involved in any of that. That's the buildings that you're.
All right, but yes, so we lay out what our 10 years should be looking like.
Because without that, we all have our focus and we're intent on taking care of our business. But if you don't look at the big picture,
Yes.
so that's the answer. I got it. I'll stop.
John?
It's not specific to this project, but if you look at the real dollars that are committed to the 2-year capital budgets, or the capital budget as percentage of the state budget, they're both severely diminished. So assuming we don't know what we're gonna have the next biennium, but if you look at trends from previous bienniums and the fact that we're increasingly reliant on the cash fund, which we have no control over whether or not it's taken from us in whole or in part. It puts a serious strain on what we can fund. So just what we saw this morning, this presentation and the exhibition in Mass could, if it were this year's capital, but 2-year plan, could take up a third of the available money before you get to anything else.
That's what we balance. That's what we balance. And we don't know what. And that bonding amount is up to the Debt Affordability Committee to make a recommend based on a lot of factors. It could be decreased again, it could be increased. I mean, I've seen a capital budget with 90 million for 1 year. I've seen a capital budget for 30 million for 1 year. And it goes like this. You make the best decision you can with the information you have at that point in time, knowing when you come back in 6 or 8 months, it's going to be different. And it could be different from January to April. Because we've seen that too. We've gone in one direction at the beginning of the session.
Mhm.
And issues or something have evolved, and come April or May, we're in a very different place. The legislative work is very fluid.
Mhm.
And we make the best decisions we can with the information we have at the time. We know what those big projects are coming down the pike. We know that. And that's what we have to balance. And that's why, like with the juvenile center, the decision was made to do a design build instead of us building the building to take the pressure off the capital. Now, is it the right way to go or not? I don't know.
Just hope.
That's a decision to spread. Now, when people talk about school construction, I think the capital bill is gonna take care of $100 and $200 million a year. I think people are dreaming.
My point, is there's no one person. It's just not.
Oh, I understand that.
So anything else on the Clarendon, I call it Rutland. Okay, this one we started working on a few years ago. We were gonna do a design build. Last year it was kind of put on hold. It's kind of percolating out there.
You're correct, Madam Chair, that, several years ago, we did look at the need for this. Part of the reason was the fact that Williston did not get the Marine Division garage. And at the same time, I think it was mid-COVID is USAR Hazmat moved from the place in Milton down to the Colchester lot. And that was a money-saving move. Not sure how, I don't think at the time anybody was looking at whether it was long-term or not. But as the commissioner said, you go in there and they do nicely stack all their equipment. But it's a chessboard that you have to work on to get things out of there. And it is difficult. So we originally looked at it and said, this is going to be expensive and time consuming. And so then we went to build to suit. And we asked for funds in 24 and then 25. It was the option that we were looking at. So what we were looking at is a lease that was going to be close to $2 million a year. That was going to go for maybe 20 years. And at the end of that lease, there was certainly the option to buy. But that, in a lease situation, it's not here in the capital bill. It goes to the general fund through the organization, through the agency or the project. So that would be a big hit on that. And we tried multiple options. The plan that I have up here takes into account everybody that we were looking to put into a building. But because of that high lease rate, it wasn't affordable. So we said, okay, what if we carved off fire safety? What if we carved off, hazmat? It went from a 13, $14 million building down to like 12. It really did make a big dent in the change. And so, and that was only for construction costs. Total project cost was, let's say, closer to 17 for what they were looking at. But again, it was a lease. So, it was a monthly cost that we were looking at with public safety going, whether or not they could afford it, and how can we then afford it? Once we were down to just basically looking at I think at the time it was just USAR going, it just isn't going to work. So then what we have regrouped a little bit, and what we're putting together and is, as the commissioner stated, what can we do for all of these people who need storage? It's critical storage. So like in the Marine Division, in the winter, it's four-wheelers and snow machines and whatnot. And then in the year, switching in seasons, going to boats and whatnot. Some of the boats are even used in the winter. The ice doesn't, Champlain and all doesn't freeze over. And please feel free to jump in.
You're doing great.
Too many years have been. So,
That's how long we've been trying to do this. He knows this.
So it's, what can you do? So now we're back at looking at, again, is, excuse me, as the commissioner stated, can we build back on the new Williston site to put the Marine Division that was originally thought there in that cost? Same with the old Williston Barracks. It's, the skin of the building is shot.
It's what?
Is shot. I mean, we've had windows literally fall out. The siding's warping and falling off and whatnot. There's rust going on in the metal part of the building, but could you take that down to the red iron and reutilize it? And at one point in time, we weren't thinking highly of that because the town of Williston was looking at first refusal. We were looking to sell the property. They said no. So then it was like, well, should we reevaluate it to be used for somebody else? And I think when I was here earlier in the year, Ed mentioned that I'd seen a proposal for somebody putting a light in that would help out instead of where we're exiting, because they had wanted to get exit from the backside of the mall and then get it over to across the street there. Doing that, if that was to go forward, we would then be exiting our property onto the side street for the light, which would help alleviate any left turns coming out of there. So that would be a good possibility. So we have to look into that. That still leaves whether or not I have not looked at it to say whether or not both USAR, hazmat, and fire safety could fit in there. I don't believe the property is large enough for all of them to fit there. So then it's, how do we parse this out and what works best? And that's what this additional, with the funding that we have in hand, and the additional funding is to go out and, again, have the discussion with public safety, because from the time we originally looked at it, things may have changed. New equipment may be there, but it's really about how do we divide this? Can it be divided? And if so, distance around, is it Chittenden County? Is it further? I mean, the Marine Division, I do know, wants to be in the Chittenden County area because a lot of their stuff is with Lake Champlain and Lake Quebec. So you
Well,
have
and
to
to
take,
that point, the urban search and rescue team has 90% of its the part-time temporary employees who get activated when we have a response. 90% are in the Chittenden County area. So we've had the discussion and tossed it around of could we relocate to Central Vermont, et cetera, but it logistically wouldn't work for the people who have to go retrieve the rigs and get on the way to a response. So there's a compelling reason to keep it in that general area, but also both of these, more so the old Williston Barracks, Interstate's right there, US Route 2 is right there. It's easy to get to where you need to go. The fort, not too bad, not as close to 89, but it's there. It's a couple miles down the road. So the location does matter in terms of facilitating timely response to the places that this type of equipment and personnel need to get to.
The fort's a nightmare most times, though. Getting out to the north end is tough. To me, and I do business in Chittenden County. So anyway.
Hi.
Yeah, sure. So just following up on that more for public safety than Joe, you said we have like partnerships with other states, because this is probably one of a kind equipment in the state of Vermont, right? And you probably get no notice in some of these situations. So if there's something in Bennington that needs to happen now, we talk at the likes Massachusetts or New York.
So, well, yes, we can if our resources are exceeded, but we do also have, in the instance of, say, Swiftwater response, we have agreements with fire departments that keep trained personnel or are members of the team. And we keep little bits of equipment here and there around the state. So it's not all in one building.
Okay.
So there is the ability to have that first line response and then bring the rest of the cavalry behind it. But yes, there are mutually responses with all states.
Great. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
So where does you have a big vehicle for hazmat, I would assume? So and that would be stored. What about the vehicle you use for crime investigation? Would that be stored as well, or is that?
It's at New Williston now.
That's at the New Williston. So this is to go out and, because there's a request here for how much, 500,000 to augment the 1.1 million that you already have. And the thinking would be you could figure out, do we use the old barracks? It's not large enough. Do we augment that with another site? Do we do one full site somewhere? And what you have available is 1.4 million that could go into design documents.
start
And
that process, or maybe it's to purchase land.
purchase. Does the previous language have authority to purchase land? Or are you gonna have to have that added to this?
I have to add that added to it, because at the time, we were looking just to sell the property off, and we had language for that. If we kept the property, part of what we're thinking now, we'll keep the old Williston, so, but I don't know if we'd have to buy land for something else, so.
You're
that
gonna
would be
have to have authority to buy land.
That is correct.
James,
So the property now, and you probably said this last year, can't remember. If it's not big enough for all of the entities, is there room on the backside, for example, probably not the front side, to add on to make it big enough for all the entities to be in one spot, or is that just a no?
There is room for an addition on the property that we own. How it would look, because I'd have to look at the structure. There can be an addition. And I don't know those zoning setbacks and like that. So that, yeah, that is also, excuse me, part of that program that we got to put together is, it's like, if we're looking at USAR Hazmat, 2 trucks don't fit. Well, yeah, we would do the addition. And there is room for that.
So my second one, and acknowledging that you've already acknowledged that the crystal ball is broken. It doesn't seem like there's really a lot of potential buyers. I mean, the 2 entities, including the city or town, whatever Williston, don't seem to be that interested. So what will we be doing, or is there any, or would it just sit there? Like, I mean, I don't know.
have
Just
the
even-
women's reentry facility. Throw that one out there.
Yeah,
Kurt Taylor.
I don't know. I don't know why I have an affinity for this place. I just think that it's probably the best place we should be looking for some strange reason, but.
Right. I mean, at the time, when we asked for authority to sell, it's because everything was moving up the road.
Yeah.
And it did not, Williston still had their option, and they said no, and we've paused. We're not actively seeking people to purchase the property because we may have a use for it. Right now, it is still temporarily being used.
Right.
Those are the things we have to weigh, and it changes year to year.
It just seemed like I'm looking at it, on Google Maps. It seems like that's enough space for it. It seems like it could fit there.
I have not laid it out. It may, but I don't know.
Because that's the most brilliant place to put it.
It is, but what you're also considering, like the plan that's here in front of you, it was nice because of the layout of the property. You had drive-through bays.
Right.
But then there, and so what does that do? If you go to the Colchester site right now, and you could be moving 3-4 pieces of equipment to get to the one that you need. And then you're backing in, jockeying things around.
Mhm.
So that's also a consideration, is the square footage might be there, but can you make it work?
Right.
I mean, even with when public safety was used in the building and you looked at the garage park that was on the eastern side of the building, they triple park with stuff. And so if you needed to get something out, you gotta move something out of the way to get to what's needed.
You're pulling this out sometimes during an emergency.
So, but that's part of the program.
Lake Champlain.
Yep.
Seconds matter.
Yep.
And you gotta move vehicles.
I get it.
That's what we weigh.
Hmm.
That's why we're 2 years into this and it's changed. It's changed. So you're gonna need language to give you authority to buy property. Scott's taking care of that. And we need to look at previous language in terms of, the authority to sell Williston property. For that too. 'Cause right now you have the authority to sell.
That's correct.
Anything else? So you'll be going out, looking for land, looking at this one a little bit more. Get in and possibly either put
It's programming first. We gotta get a better understanding of exactly what their needs are today and for the near future. And then start playing around with the existing site to see whether or not it can fit. As representative of state, you look at it and it looks like it's going to fit, but then it's like, how do you store the material? And so, you draw that box, rectangle, whatever, start placing those pieces in there and how does it work? Do they, both sides gotta leave at the same time, stuff like that. And then what that cost would be also.
Anything else? Work in progress. Anything else you folks want to weigh in on? Because I know we've got.
No, ma'am, I appreciate you taking the time and your thoughtfulness and all of the discussions.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
folks. Appreciate it.
So keep going. We're gonna shift and go back to the commissioner. in a second.
Thank you.
Cozy rooms.
I know, it's really great.
That's the.
I just think when, right, they're looking for land now, so like everything comes to me.
Baby starts there.
Oh, man, to be in your head.
But if you put that building in the middle, right?
Yeah, this way.
Like, they see a no vote and
Well,
John.
that's like.
Steve Bennington up.
No, that's
Williston.
was Williston Barracks.
Yeah.
And like you're fitting that thing and you'd have to take that down, but you could put that building right there and it would have.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's like, to me, it's like, that's where you go, and you can make the changes on the design a little if it's too long.
Never realized, at least for me, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, this is you own it, it's already a state thing, not that hard to down and build a new one there.
Definitely one.
But I was gonna make the joke online, pick on you, if we could do rapid conference, all fine.
No, but it's just like, but sometimes.
By nature of the fact that we were actively going to start building the best it's 16 million. in it. So I think total, we're getting
They just, at some point, we
we'd like to have to pull everybody.
We have millions and millions of dollars that's sitting in some crappy, place up here that they can't even get to or whatever. It's ridiculous. This is easy because everyone gets to it.
People say like, well,
6 million all in one.
operations, I don't know about all this.
Well, right.
Operations, but that's what they run, efficiency too.
Based on statements I've heard the governor say,
Disagree or agree, and you never know when those are gonna range.
the
At
election.
some point, you gotta go and say, all right, we kick it down the road. If you ever hear me speak in public,
He's committed.
stuff. Yeah, it's always, we have 9 years of kicking the
I
can
think
down.
the vibe is
At some point,
new facility.
comfortable as it is, we're gonna have to bite the bullet.
Right now.
Man, I don't want to be on this
So
committee in
far is
4 years with some of the price tags of this stuff coming out.
At least design
We
buildings.
are still alive. That's my reelection.
You should accidentally push a button.
It is harder down the road.
We have
And that's the thing, like, and this, I can't imagine building this.
We're gonna use
that expensive.
It's just. We already have.
It's like storage facility.
Gotta be.
In comparison,
It's gonna be-
obviously, they're taking the skin off.
Many storages are like,
Women are gonna go.
You're
Starting for work or whatever.
I mean, do these need to be heated?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were all live.
Yeah, we're still.
We were live.
Okay, we're shifting gears. We're still on the capital bill 1, 2, 3. We are on section 16, the Historical Society, which is, it is not a state-owned building, but it houses a lot of state history. I mean, it's where our center is between the Historical Society and the archives. That's where you really have the history of Vermont stored and accessible to the public. Last year, there was an appropriation of 700,000 for the building, was basically seeping in water. And we were dealing with that. And this one is climate control. So welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
If you could identify yourself for the record.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having me. Stephen Perkins. I'm the executive director of the Vermont Historical Society. One thing the chair already highlighted, the Vermont Historical Society was created by act of legislature, and we are one of the repositories for Vermont. And actually brought some goodies to share with you a little bit later as an example of the type of critical, very important Vermont items, artifacts, and documents that are stored at the Vermont Historical Society. So thank you last year. I think we had a hot 5 minutes to talk last year. So I'm also going to, we'll talk about what's in the governor's proposed language first. That's pretty straightforward. And then I'd be happy to also give you an update on the water mitigation project that is ongoing. So that is my introduction. So what's in the proposal here? And I'm thankful that it got moved up. It was proposed for next year's round, and it's important that this be replaced. It is the last piece of our HVAC equipment at the Historical Society that needs to be upgraded. As I think you all know, most major systems now have about a 25-year lifespan on them, and all of the equipment was new back in 2000, or actually 1999. And so through federal funding, through private funding, and through funding through the state, we've updated all of the HVAC equipment except for this unit. It's called a Munters unit, similar to how we used to call photocopiers Xeroxes. So the name of the company has become synonymous with the unit. It is a highly specialized piece of archival climate control. It controls temperature and humidity at the same time in a complex way. That's the best I can describe without getting an engineer in here to talk to you about it. And that is a picture of said unit. I don't know how else to represent the unit to you, but there it is. It sits behind the building and it services the vault, which are what we call the vault. Very funny aside on why we call it the vault. When we were 100% located in the Pavilion building, you may not know, but in the basement of that building is a big old vault, lockable, sealable vault. That's where we stored all this stuff. Of course, it flooded in '92, and that's why we are in Barre now, which is above the floodplain. And so this unit services that vault. What's in the vault? Again, not the best photographs that I can take here. It's compressible storage, and it stores our most sensitive and critical documents and artifacts. It also holds the most sensitive and critical archives held by the Vermont State Library, or the State of Vermont Library, which is also located in that building. So you can see the tracks on the floor. It's compressible storage. You can see various types of materials in the photographs there. Some other materials here, you can see the Coolidge family papers. We have a large collection of the papers of President Coolidge and his family. And then a small selection of our film archives. So these are very early films and audio of Vermont. Again, very sensitive materials that need a specific climate too.
May I ask, are any of these actively used? Or are they simply stored because they're valuable?
They are actively used. Researchers use them on a regular basis. And we do lend some of them on a regular basis. And I think that's a difference between the archives we hold and state archives. They don't have the ability to lend. we have the ability to lend these to other educational institutions and museums.
Thank you.
Right?
And those films, have they been digitized at all?
Some of them have,
Okay, is there an ongoing project?
as funding allows.
Yeah.
Yep, there's some foundations, one local in Stowe that funds a digitization of a film a year. So at least one film a year is done. Many
Just my
more can
rough
be done.
count, You've got, yeah.
That's just one piece, that's just one piece of the archive as well. We could spend millions in film digitization.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, so it's fun, and we have a dedicated media room in our library. So I know last year we were planning a field trip to the History Center. Maybe we can do that again
That would be great.
in the future. You can see all this in person, and so that film viewing room with trained volunteers will allow members of the public to come in and view some of these in their original format if they have not been digitized. And for some folks, if they're doing research, they may just film it. We'll project it on a screen for them. They'll film it with their phone, be able to use it. You can find some of our digitized films on our website, vermonthistory.org. Spend an afternoon watching them.
You get a lot of visitors in the Historical Society.
So the museum sees about 15 to 20,000 visitors a year. That's here, less in the facility in Barrie. I think when we moved there in 2000, we were seeing a lot more visitors. So I'd certainly under 10,000 visitors a year to use things on site. But our requests for information online, people who are outside of the ability to travel physically to Barrie, it just goes up and up and up every year. So we're just as busy using these artifacts to serve people. But the main point of this storage facility is preservation, safe storage and preservation. I had listed a few highlights of things that are in this collection. And this is just a very small selection just to kind of highlight what we do house here. The James Whitelaw collection. James Whitelaw was the first Surveyor General second Surveyor General of the state of Vermont, the first professional Surveyor General. The first was Ira Allen, and we kind of know what he did with surveying around the state. Whitelaw was a trained surveyor, Scottish surveyor, and so we have his diaries, his papers, preliminary maps, lotting books, you name it, of Vermont. Vermont Romance was the first motion picture ever filmed in Vermont. We have the original imprint of that. That is digitized. You can watch that online. As I said, lots of early Vermont films, many oral histories, personal papers. So Matthew Lyon, Justin Morrill, Dean Davis, Percival Clement, Ralph Landers, Peter Smith, Stephen Rowe Bradley. You can just keep naming prominent Vermonters. Most of their personal papers end up with us. If they were a state, their state papers would end up at archives, but their personal papers have to go somewhere as well, and those would come to us.
You know that there is a full library of Ralph Landers at his home in
No,
Springfield. And every time that house turns ownership, they don't touch the library, but it's his senatorial library,
interesting.
and it has everything.
Is it-
It's privately owned, the house, and it's where Senator Flanders lived.
Yeah.
And he had his senatorial office above the garage.
Mhm.
Has all of his documents, has everything there, and nobody knows what to do
You
with it.
should put them in touch with us. I mean, it's the kind of material that we handle,
It's huge.
as best we can. I mean, there's
Oh, yeah.
limitations in storage. So if it's bound printed matter that duplicates other bound printed matter, we may not take it. But
Yes.
so if you know the owner, put me in touch.
I do.
Happy to chat with them. Well, I mean, I sent the document. You can read what's in here from photographs to papers and you name it. I brought a few items with me. It's really hard to see on screen what we protect. This artifact here, and I'm happy to pass it around. Just please don't spill any water on it or anything.
Careful, Will.
I'll be careful. Yes, yes.
This is what is commonly referred to as a slave narrative, and it's a printed book, and it's been fully conserved, so you can Okay, you can open it, you can open it right up and, take a look at it. And because they're library materials, researchers do come and use these. There's only one of two from Jeffrey Brace, who was a Vermonter, died in St. Albans. He was kidnapped from Africa as a teenager, sold into slavery, was enslaved. He was an enslaved soldier during the French and Indian War. He was served in the U.S. Navy during the Revolution, which gave him his freedom. He moved to Vermont. He lived in southern Vermont around Poultney, and then ultimately moved to Georgia, Vermont, and he died in St. Albans. And he had an amazing life, and he dictated his life story to a man, the last name is Prentice, who published this book. It's one of the earliest slave narratives. There's only two in the world of this printing left, and we have one here at the Vermont Historical Society. So that's the type of thing. I'll pass this the other way. And I was going to make the offer. If you have a break after my testimony, you want to look at more about a whole box. This is a group of documents that relate to the Vermont Republic or pre-Vermont Republic, so 1775 to 1791. And so we were here in the State House a few weeks ago, and we had a signed document from Thomas Jefferson, which was conveyed to the state of Vermont, letting us know we'd been admitted to the Union as the 14th state. To be admitted to the Union of the 14th state, Vermont, the Republic, had to meet in convention and accept the U.S. Constitution. This is the document signed by the members of the convention, accepting the United States Constitution on behalf of the Republic of Vermont. So that is in plastic, and so please keep it in the plastic, but you're welcome to take a look at it. And
Take any exceptions?
No exceptions. But we can talk a lot about Vermont history. It was fairly unanimous. Vermont wanted to be part of by that point, wanted to be part of the Union. So that rounds out my discussion of the Munters unit. The Munters unit provides climate control to that. There's the machine and installation. Basically, that's the cost.
So hang on, Troy. What is there is an actual numbers of 566,724.
Isn't that great?
Is that what you have gotten back is what it would cost, or is that?
That was the estimate provided to us, and we did just update it, and it still holds.
Correct.
And how long is delivery on that?
25 weeks. Yeah. They are in country though. That's what we just found out.
They're what?
In country.
There are units in country. If they weren't, because they're not made here, they're made in Germany.
The
There would
tariffs?
be tariffs too. Yeah, but there are some units, so we can reserve one.
So would that incorporate the possible increase for the tariffs?
It does not.
It's not. So
Does
we don't
not.
know if there'll be tariffs added on or not.
There are units in country, so we can reserve one in country. Yeah.
This is amazing.
This says Martin Shipman's signature too. He must have not been very old.
Yeah, my pause on this.
Sorry.
There is a,
It was our last Federalist government. For the party to disintegrate.
Don't get Joe going on history.
this is really interesting.
Not gonna see this one.
Petty officers are punished with whipping. Petty offenses are punished with whipping.
Don't give me any ideas, Chair.
That's what we can do.
Some of these artifacts will be in an exhibit that we're mounting this year for the 250th of the country and the 250th of the Vermont Republic, which of course is in 2027, called 50 for 250, and it's 50 iconic artifacts from our collection. That slave narrative is one of the artifacts, and there's a scholar who actually studied at UVM. She finished her dissertation in Wisconsin and has written a book on him. And she's writing the essay on that for our exhibit and book project.
It's just opening it up and what I read is just kind of.
Yeah, just a few lines, can't you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, just a little. Just a little. Huh. And people are just interested in.
Yeah.
at it. I sure Kate gets to see it. This is a first.
know anything about the fold lines on this, like where it would have been?
I don't know. I don't know. Most of,
Where would they have signed it? Where would they have been?
I believe they're in Bennington. It says at the top.
Mhm.
Not Windsor, but Bennington.
Those people.
They altered
Yeah.
those. On the east, Vermont was separated east and west ideologically. And so they alternated where they would meet. So they'd either meet in convention at Windsor or they'd meet in convention in Bennington, and it moved back and forth on a fairly regular basis.
The importance of the monument and
Mhm.
other.
That's enough from you, Mary.
Remind me which side, I always get it confused. Was it the east side of the mountains where the, like,
Oh,
where the
yeah.
loyalists were during the revolution, and the western side?
We're not gonna go.
Oh, we're not gonna go on that. Okay, never mind. I just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify. Okay.
Well, they alternated governor.
Yeah, the mountain rule stayed into effect until the 1930s. And on the federal side of things, it stayed into effect until Leahy was elected in 73.
And Steve
That was a big
knows,
to-do because he took the eastern seat.
and Stephen knows how important Bennington is because he was the head of our museum for a number of years before he came to this position. And we hated to lose him.
Yeah.
That's an original book.
I mean, St. Albans.
That's an original book.
Wow.
Yep.
St. Albans
It's
has a museum.
sobering to pick it up and just open it and read
It's present.
something. It's like.
It's a hard, if you were to read the whole thing, and you can buy a commercial, like I said, there was an author, and I'm sorry, I forgot her name, who did her dissertation on Jeffrey Brace. And so she produced a book. The first half of it is an analysis in kind of modern language of what he wrote. And then the second half of the book is just a transcription. So you can, read it in a modern book. It's a hard read.
It's a hard read, just the paragraph or two I read, it's like, oh.
But in Leahy's race, it would have been broken anyway, right? Because his opponent was from the west too. It's Fred Haggard.
Yes.
Luther Haggard, so it wouldn't have, it was broken.
But everyone blamed
Yeah.
or the Republicans.
Well, Leahy could think a really bad Republican primary. It's like Nixon. The rest is history.
Like, I just want my $566,000.
This is really needed. We were working with federal funding on the replacement of this, and the grant for that was through the Department of Energy, and so those aren't available anymore. It is at life's end. The unit is working, so I want to say it is working. The problem is you can't get parts for it anymore. Yeah.
Wow.
And the thing about history is once it's gone, it's gone. So you got to protect it.
Shall I move on to the pictures of the other stuff?
Sure. Well, yep.
Oh, I had some other pictures of things. That's the only known photograph of the second State House, the daguerreotype at the Vermont Historical Society. And then the large box on the other side is the Chambers Atlas. So it was a British naval officer who mapped and charted Lake Champlain in the 1750s.
Mhm.
It's a hand-drawn atlas with descriptions on each page telling you how to navigate Lake Champlain. So the water mitigation update. So this was money that was appropriated through the capital bill last year for water issues that were exacerbated by the flooding in 23 and 24 on this old building. Spalding was the Spalding High School, the Spalding graded school. It was built in 1892, added on to in 1914. And served as the Berry High School until 1964. And then it was the middle school for the city of Berry until 1995. The Vermont Historical Society moved in at the grand cost of $1. And through about $15 million in late 1990s money, renovated and updated the building into the Vermont History Center, houses the Vermont Historical Society, our collections, our library also houses the State Library and the State Department of Libraries. It also houses the State Archaeologist and the collections of the State Archaeologist with ACCD. We had water issues infiltrating into the basement of the old section of the building, the 1892 section of the building. We had water infiltration through the brick sheathing and a little bit of water infiltration through the roof. And so those are the areas that we have addressed at this point. We mobilized for construction in November. This is scaffolding going up for the brickwork on the front of the building. We started trenching the back. So the first work that we did was on the foundation of the building, and the project scope was, I'm going to call it the back and the front. That's easier than cardinal directions because it doesn't sit perfectly to cardinal directions. This is the back of the building. You can see the trenching starting there. This was a very difficult excavation of the foundation. If you know our property, it's not at the top of the hill, it's on the side of the hill. So the top of the hill is right to your left there, which is part of the water problems because the water rolls down that hill and runs right into the back of the building. And so you can see he's got a very small excavator. We could only go down so far because of human safety, because of bank collapse and whatnot. But they did a good job, and also had all of the utilities for HVAC and electric come into the building. You can see them starting to uncover some of those pipes there. This is on the front. Give you a sense of the foundation. It's a rough cut granite foundation on the building. In the late 90s, when the first renovation was being done, they did put a spray sealant on it, and that's that red stuff you see there, and some kind of screening that helped hold it on. That appears to have failed, which was part of the water problem. And then these drain pipes that we're starting to uncover that run around the footings, those drain pipes, some of them were full of mud. And that probably happened during the 23 floods because of the hydraulic pressure that was coming back up the hill through the stormwater system in Barre. So we didn't have aerial flooding because we're up on a hill, but the stormwater system couldn't take our water and stuff started to back up and it became full of mud. We had to go pretty deep, a little deeper than we thought to get to some of this. Is just a sense with a human being as to how far down on foundation work we went. There's some examples. This is the drainage piping. So we were able to clean the majority of it, which was great. And we replaced that, which we wouldn't clean. And the best news was they were able to remotely clean the drainage on either side of the building. So we don't have to dig up the two sides, only the front and the back at this point. That's a picture of a cut open pipe, and that's just dirt from excavation, but you can see the congealed mud that had filled the drainage system. Rather than going with a spray application, we went with a EPDM, which is rubber roof, attached almost like shingles to the foundation, and then backfilling. And so this is the back of the building, front of the building, just to kind of give you a sense. In the back of the building, we cleaned out the bottom drains, but as they filled it in, they added a secondary French drain. And then gravel and a material called flowable fill that water will drain through. And also change the drain direction in the back. I don't know how much information you really want, but I think it's fascinating as an amateur at this. It used to drain two ways from the back. They found that the way that the hill sloped, the engineers looked at it, that if they built up the flowable fill, that it could all drain in one direction, which was going to be much better for the overall system. So that was an added bonus that we weren't anticipating. Here we are filling it back in. So the foundation work has all been completed to date. So decorative gravel. The next step was to get the roofing done and mobilizing masonry. This is a view of the facility that most people see as they enter Barre. So it was a gray day, and we had a lot of folks in the community that were worried, and so some good press about the work that was being done on the building. No, it wasn't catastrophic. We're taking care of issues before it becomes catastrophic. So you can see the roofers. They did, the project was scoped to about 2/3 of the roof on the original building. The The roof on the 1914 edition, we did with private funds a few years ago. So the bulk of the roof is now taken care of. I just thought it was interesting showing how they were working specifically on the cupola way up high. And so the cupola has been completely covered. Worry about my time here. And then this is area behind the turrets of the building. It's a gorgeous Richardsonian Romanesque building, which means it has lots of crenellations and turrets, and those are all places that catch water. And anyone who works on roofs or masonry, they like to look at them, they don't like to work on them. So, yeah, a lot of flashing. They were able to reuse all the copper flashing. It was smoothly thick enough, and so they reflashed. The biggest thing is that apparently in the late 90s, when this portion of the roof was put on to kind of save the roof, they did it quickly. They used consumer level tiles, ice guard, water guard wasn't put, they were just put shingles down. So it's now, you can see they put down ice guard, they put down water underlayment and commercial shingles. The last little piece is there's a flat roof over the middle of the building. You can't see this from anywhere except from a helicopter. And a open air vestibule in the building was covered over at one point and turned into a skylight, and then the skylight was roofed over. So we all know those things fail all the time. And of course, that's where we were having leaking. So that roof that went over where the skylight was, that flat roof was redone. So you can see it's all the way down to the below the roof decking, and then new decking, new insulation was put on, resealed into all the drains reworked. I don't have a picture of the rubber roof because they were going really fast because they got the EPDM down right before it started snowing. So the roofing is done as well. Last piece is masonry. They're working inside heated scaffolding right now. Power to them.
Yeah, really.
This building, I guess I knew it in my heart of hearts, but it was interesting to say it's not a masonry building. So this is not a brick building. This is a wood frame building that is sheathed in one layer of bricks. And the bricks are, and that's just a good picture. That's one brick removed, and you can see the sheathing. There's an air gap between the bricks and the sheathing, which is the way they did it. And then the bricks, the courses of bricks are secured to that sheathing with a fastener, and the fastener from 1892 was an iron nail or an iron spike. And so here are some images of the bricks failing. I'm gonna say this probably has not been worked on since 1892, so it's done really well. It's indicative of the older part of the building. You could just see losses in bricks, and you can see where it's separating around the towers here. And so the masons are dealing with the very front facade of the building. So we do have these issues on other sides of the buildings, but this is the most critical part. Way up at the tippy top, where they had the decorative brickwork, they just had to take it all down. And then as they work their way down, you can see them removing failing bricks. The whole building has a preservation easement on it, so everything has to be approved through the trust. And so preservation bricks, preservation mortar, all the chemistry has to match 1892 for the mortar. And then on this picture on the left, you can see a few of the iron nails sticking out that would have been used at each course to help hold it in. Most of them have rusted in there. So they're putting in stainless steel anchors as they work their way down. And then I think this is my last slide. Here's some of the wet mortar. They're now starting to repoint and relay bricks. And so it hasn't dried yet, so that's why it's darker. But that's the progress. They probably have another 3 weeks to go on this portion of the project. And I remember what the general contractor told me. And then they'll be back in April because we have to do landscaping. We got to fix the lawn. We got to fix the gardens that were all dug up. And then the masons are going to do repair work on the towers on either side of the entrance. And that will take care of the project. So far, the project is on budget.
Oh, wow.
I do that fast enough.
Interesting.
And it's on budget. Yeah, we've been very happy with this general contractor. They've done a couple of projects for us, and they've always been on budget.
That's really terrific.
Yeah,
And it
thank
was
you so
really
much.
nice. It was good that you brought in some items.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you.
Happy to. And again, I extend the invitation to the committee as a group or individually. Please come visit the History Center and happy to walk you through and we can dig through any of the stuff that you want to.
Our time frees up more like in April.
I was going to say a spring trip.
Trip would be good. Anything else? Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks so much.
Very much.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry, I missed.
Doing a great
Yeah.
job. Thank you. And you got more than 5 minutes.
Did.
It's kind of a rush.
7.5.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we don't often see money in the capital bill go down to the actual amount. Usually it's rounded up or rounded down or something.
Our finance director submitted the actual estimate to the capital bill folks and they put in the actual number.
Isn't that amazing? Thank you. So we do have, it is Mental Health Advocacy Day, and we do have some folks here. There was someone, Richard Fales, Rutland City we have down, but that's not. He's online? Oh, there he is. Okay, so Richard is here. I'm not sure how you folks, Richard, are you the one that's starting this, or we have some folks here in the room?
I'm not sure.
You're here to listen? Yeah. Okay. Great. So Richard, welcome. You're on Zoom. And we have a few minutes and please feel free to share with us. Thank you, Steve. To share with us any thoughts or concerns you want to share. And if you could just identify yourself for the record before you start.
Richard Zuna. Retired Lieutenant Corrections from the Marble Valley Corrections Facility. I worked for 16 years between Woodstock and Rutland. And the hours that you have now are much better. But sometimes the officers have to work 16-hour shifts, which is hard on the body. I know it's been a month of that straight when I worked out at Woodstock in this restaurant. And the problem is that staff spend more time in the jail than they do their families. And they also get too close with the inmates, which causes officers to do things that you would not normally do. It's a subculture. And you spend more time speaking to the inmates than you do staff. And then I understand that Rutland is their short staff. You have to have more officers. I know it's hard to get on. However, being a retired lieutenant and walking the units like that's supposed to, you saw a lot of things. And when I was at Marble Valley, there were 3 people, 1 person at the desk, and 3 people in the unit. Now, there's only 1 person that's scanning full unit that I've been told of, because the source does have. And they close a building, a pod, and the officer only goes in there and checks whenever he's able to. Now, being a retired lieutenant, it's a very dangerous situation now. And I know you threw a lot of money at corrections during COVID, but the retention is very hard to keep due to the fact of overtime. Yes, it's good for the family, but they're also on call when they need to on their days off. So you really don't get the days off depending about. The TV ads are great, but they're incorrect. Okay, I'm very sorry they said that. They're very incorrect. You're on call on your days off and you get called in. So they're giving less days off than what they said. And I've talked to a lot of people about this. As Rutland is very unsafe right now, and they have a lot more inmates than they're supposed to have. That facility was built to hold 96 inmates. Now I understand that's over 150 inmates there or more. That is a very dangerous situation with only 6 staff on and one dude on one shift. That facility should have 10 officers per shift, not 6. So you're looking at a very dangerous situation. I do not know about the other facilities, and I hope they're full staff, but I have not talked to anybody from any of the others for staff. With the exception of Springfield, and they're also having the same problems for staff. And the officers get burned out quick, very quick, and you're not having a good retention there. I mean, the video on TV is nice, it's very incorrect. I just want to let you know that. Because it's a subculture. You're locked into, you have it closer to the inmate than you are to the staff, okay? Which causes relationships between staff and inmate. So it's imperative that you hire more staff, at least for Rutland or other facilities. And I know the job market is terrible and not many people want to work in practice. And it's more difficult now than when I worked there from 1992 to 2007. And I attempted suicide because of the severe working environment of getting bullied by staff and by inmates, okay? Because I was doing my job. And 4 people that I know that are in corrections commit suicide, okay? You have a suicide rate of 40% higher in corrections than you do with any other workplace, which is very sad. I don't know, I've heard there's like 2 or 3 other people, I actually know 5. One was on probation and parole, and one other one was at Springfield, so it's total of 6. I knew 4 personally. So I did not know the other 2, but I do know 2 other officers, one at Woodstock, attempted suicide. And it's a very dangerous situation. You become involved with inmate, and you're locked into with them, and that's a problem. And the problem is inefficiency. The building, it's top heavy. There's too many chiefs and not enough staff to fill the position. And that is the problem. It's top heavy. And you need to get more staff. If you're trying to save money, you need to get rid of people that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing to create the overhead. The problem is there's too many people in Montpelier and not enough people in the jails. And I know because of COVID, they put a lot of money at it. And now it's very difficult.
So I really appreciate you giving us a perspective of what it's like to work in a facility. We've heard a lot of testimony on that. But with your firsthand knowledge, I find that really important. Other questions or anything from the committee members?
Very helpful to hear that perspective. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I was just gonna say the same thing. Especially the mental health toll that it takes on people to work in certain fields that, are considerably higher than other places, and people don't always aren't always able to put themselves in the mental state to consider what the workplace is like for some people.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm interested in going to the facility and talking to staff as a group and talk to them about suicidality, depression, and anxiety that comes from the stress of the jail. And I would do that because it's very important for their mental health. But like I said, you're locked in as well. You're a prisoner there.
Anything else from the committee?
Very thankful.
Thank
Thanks
you,
very much,
Richard.
Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
We do have some folks here. Are you part of the mental health advocacy group?
No, I'm in urban.
Okay, you're just sitting in. Great. Anything else? So we are done a little early, which is good. Take a longer lunch. The repo, one thing that you might want to pay attention to, they did a reallocation of cash from the Rutland Field Station,
Yes.
plan and design.
150.
The attention on that one, 250,000. State line.
Yes, you are.
So that,
So we're done for this morning, Richard. We're gonna finish up. And so you're welcome to stay, or else you can take yourself off of Zoom, because we're finishing up.
And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So we're back here at 1 o'clock. We're gonna have Damian Leonard come in and walk us through the language that Department of Motor Vehicles recommended in the miscellaneous DMV bill that's over in Senate Transportation.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you. That deals with folks who are incarcerated getting their real ID, non-driver ID, their real ID, and their driver's license. So we're gonna work on,
I'd like to say something before Ann. You can
okay,
you can get a hold of me, and I'll give you my phone number to help others.
so if you could send that to Tate Mullen, or Tate can email you and get that information.
Okay, R's
Okay.
and Richard, R's and Richard, F's and Frank, A's and Apple, L's and Larry, E's and Echo, S's and Sam, J's and John, R's and Richard at AOL.com. Someone wants to get a hold of me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great,
You have a good
thank
day.
you. So
thank
we're gonna go over that language and compare that to the bill that we have. And make sure I spoke to the chair of Senate Transportation. We're gonna work on the language. They will be having it today or tomorrow. They're gonna have corrections in to talk about the proposed language over there. But what Richie Westman said to me, we work on the language, they can carry that language in the miscellaneous DMV bill, and we can also carry the language in our bill, which is 549. So we'll figure this out, but Damian's gonna give us a walkthrough of what DMV proposes, the language change. But we've got to make sure it works for DOC.
Can I just get a quick, what's the benefit on doing it in two simultaneous bills like that? Or is it
In
just,
case one doesn't pass,
yeah, okay.
but we have to track it because it's in
Right,
two
because
places.
it could be
which
changed
makes
by any involved committee now. Yeah.
So we're gonna have to track it. So if we do this, whoever reports this bill is going to be the one that has to really work hard and carry this through the Senate. Gonna be really important that the reporter, the bills on top of this. Kevin?
So your comment was, we have two bills in case one of them doesn't pass, it doesn't pass the House or the Senate, right?
Doesn't pass and go to the governor, doesn't pass.
So they vary that much that, okay.
They might,
They could.
I mean, the DMV is a miscellaneous DMV bill that has a lot of things. That one usually passes. 549 may not,
Oh,
or it could be the other way
I
around.
see, it's tagged on, okay, I understand.
So both bills, two different vehicles have the same language.
My groundhogs have more than one hole.
Wonderful analogy.
Good analysis.
There you go.
Groundhog Day's done.
Joe.
That's why groundhogs have.
So before we get any more squirrely, it's time we finish up for the morning.
Turn up